What's up, everybody? I'm Kyle Windjack, and today we're talking about the best books to read for musicians. Now, if I'm missing some of the books that you love, just keep in mind that this list is not at all subjective and your opinion is wrong. Just kidding. Comment below about all your favorite books that I've missed and or what a prick I am. And would I even be a YouTuber if I didn't tell you to smash that like button for the algorithm and ring the bell? So these are 5 books that I've read or listened to on audio that have really helped me in my musical career, and I hope that they'll do the same for you. So number 5 is The Talent Code by Daniel Coyle. And this book isn't even specifically about music. It's more just a series of case studies that examines the similarities between people who have mastered various disciplines, including music, but it also talks about athletes, academics, etc. So after interviewing hundreds of these elite performers and studying their habits, he ends up finding similarities in the way that these people practice their respective disciplines that are essentially universal. You'll also learn some basics about neuroscience and how that relates to learning new skills. One of the main focuses is on a new scientific discovery called myelin, which essentially insulates the neural pathways that you use the most, and Daniel Coyle argues that that's the key to learning a new skill. He also goes over 3 deep practice principles that, when followed, will help you develop skills more quickly and efficiently. It's the whole debate about nurture versus nature, right? I mean, I have no doubt that natural ability plays some role in being an elite performer, but I think it's often overstated in the conversation. And when you look at any of these elite performers, there's no doubt that they've put in an incredible amount of time into their craft in a very focused and specific way. So that's what this book is about. It's a great read. Check it out. Now, number 4 is The Music Lesson by Victor Wooten. If you don't know who Victor Wooten is, he's bass royalty, fantastic virtuoso electric bass player. And he wrote this awesome, somewhat wacky, kind of esoteric book about music. And it has a lot of great advice about how to improve your technique, your groove and rhythm, the way you listen to music, especially as it pertains to playing with other people and reacting in a musical way. And all of that is delivered in the form of parables. So it's written from the perspective of a younger Victor Wooten who's suddenly visited by this sage-like teacher named Michael who operates in mysterious ways. And he gives Victor all sorts of advice in these sort of cryptic ways that he then has to figure out and decipher. And yeah, I will say that Victor's a much better bass player than he is a writer, but that's nothing to be ashamed of because he is freakishly good at the bass, and this book really contains a lot of good wisdom straight from the source about how he got there. Okay, so book number 3 is Deep Work by Newport, and I just finished reading this one. I think focus is one of the most important resources we all have at our disposal. And this book outlines a lot of helpful tactics on how to use that resource more efficiently and how to schedule your time in a way that aligns with your priorities. So again, not specifically related to music, but I wouldn't hesitate for a second to recommend it to any artist because I really think focus and time management is that important. Book number 2 on the list is Effortless Mastery by Werner. Excellent jazz pianist, but this book came to me at a time when I really needed it. I was doing a music degree at Humber College in Toronto, Canada, and I was a trumpet major, but I had developed some bad habits through my time playing trumpet self-taught in high school, and I could play fairly well, but when I got to Humber, the head of brass told me that I was going to need to change my embouchure and change some pretty fundamental things about the way I was playing, and that if I didn't, I would essentially get stuck at a certain point and plateau in my abilities on the horn. So I took that advice, but it basically meant going back to day 1 on the trumpet. Obviously I still knew all the fingerings and stuff like that, but in terms of range and tone and flexibility and all those things, I basically had none again. And not only that, but I was still expected to perform academically and in a performance setting multiple times a week. So I had to go back and forth between these 2 different techniques to the point where it screwed with both of them and neither of them were really usable. But I found a really great teacher to help me sort through all this. Shout out to Charlie Porter. If you're a brass player, check out his channel. He's got a lot of great resources there. But reading this book was also kind of a pivotal moment for me in that process because it made me realize that music, and specifically playing the trumpet, could be very easy. And when you listen to master musicians, someone like Wynton Marsalis or any of these virtuosos who make it sound very easy, well, that's because for them, it is easy, and it can be for you too. And ironically, the process to getting to the point where you can play all this crazy stuff effortlessly is very challenging, and it requires a lot of time and effort in a certain way. But I think a lot of times we make it harder for ourselves than it needs to be, and that's what this book is really great for. He kind of explains this approach that he has to music that's almost Zen-like without it being overly esoteric, but it really helps you examine what's going on mentally. And oftentimes overcoming those mental hurdles can be the most challenging part when you're trying to get to that next level of your musicianship. And the number one book, I would play a drum roll, but I'm kind of in between apartments right now and I don't have my kit with me. So this is a short read that you could get through in a day or two, but there's a lot of gems packed in there. I'm talking about The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. And actually this one I listened to on audio, and I got through the whole thing just in the time that it took me to go for a run and then make dinner after. But I'm really glad that I eventually decided to pick this up, because just the way that he describes the struggles that you go through mentally as an artist, it's really inspiring and also kind of brutally honest at times. It's all about overcoming mental resistance and all the sort of mental trickery that goes on when you're trying to create something. And this can come in a lot of forms, like self-doubt, imposter syndrome, and all the different things that we'll do to procrastinate doing the things that we know will make us better artists and better people. So I'm definitely going to listen to this one a few more times and maybe pick up a text copy as well. Like I said, it's a really short, easy read in terms of the time commitment, but the information is really powerful. All right, and I've even got a few bonus resources for you. So the first one I want to mention is Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. And this is another one that I listened to on audio. The audio version has some cool sort of podcast interview style things between chapters. So this is basically an autobiography. David Goggins is a complete badass who does some crazy shit that sort of pushes the physical and mental limits of what we think is possible. And a lot of the stuff that he does are not necessarily things that you would want to do. We all have different goals, but at the same time, it kind of makes you think, like, if there's somebody out there going that hard and doing all this crazy stuff despite the challenges and the pain and stuff that he has to overcome, it probably means that there's some wiggle room for you to put in some more effort. And of course, mental and physical health and self-care is important, but if you ask yourself honestly whether those things are an excuse or whether they're productive, and only you can answer that. I would also definitely recommend watching The Last Dance. It's about Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls when they won 3 back-to-back championships, and then they did it again a few years later. And the footage is just incredible, and there's all sorts of interviews with Michael and his teammates and different people who were around him at the time. And it's basically a masterclass in elite performance mentality. And the last thing I'm going to leave you with is a shameless self-promotion of my new blog. So you can check that out. Links in the description. Links are in the description for everything that I've mentioned today. So definitely check that out. And you can leave a comment either right here on YouTube or on my website if there's a topic that you'd like to see me cover in the future. I'll try to get to that. So I hope you enjoy those books, and I'm really looking forward to reading some of your recommendations as well. I'll see you next time. Some ASMR coffee.